You're likely here because you want to buy a smartphone for about 100,000 naira and you're torn between the Samsung Galaxy A05 and the Itel P55. I'm going to make it quite simple for you to make the perfect pick. And also at the end of this video, I'll give you 3 other devices to choose from, of course, and reasons why you should get those other devices. And so without taking much of your time, yo guys, let's get started. Right now, you can get the Itel P55 for about 99,900 naira, which is 100,000 naira, while you get the Galaxy A05 slightly above that price for 104,900 naira, and that is a 5,000 naira difference in price. For this pricing, you get 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage on Samsung, and on the Itel you get 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage, which is double the memory on the Samsung, and actually for less the price. So let's talk about the design and build quality here. When we talk about design, the Itel is the device a lot of people would pick here. First off, I've noticed that a lot of people who pick budget devices love it when their devices look like the top-end devices, and Itel has done a great job at that here. Unlike the A05, which although looks like the top-end Samsung devices, doesn't have that third camera to seal the deal. There's also a cutout notch on the Itel P55, while you have this dated new style notch on the Samsung Galaxy A05. You do not get a fingerprint scanner on the A05, that's bonkers, but you get this side mounted fingerprint scanner on the Itel P55. So before I talk about the displays on these devices, let's talk about the things you get from within the boxes of these smartphones. For the Itel P55, you get a charger, a USB cable, a case to protect the smartphone, but the A05 here on the other hand just gives you the smartphone and a cable, and that's it. So just have that at the back of your mind that you get better value for money from the Itel. Now when it comes to displays, the Galaxy here is basic and boring with a 60Hz refresh rate, LCD panel, 720p resolution and 6.7-inch sized panel. But on the Itel side of things, you get a 90Hz refresh rate display, slightly smaller 6.6-inch display, LCD and 720p in terms of the resolution. So generally, we know that Samsung is better at displays, and it is noticeable here even though you have a higher refresh rate with the Samsung. The display on the A05 looks richer, but this is only when you place them side by side. But in general, I prefer the display on the Itel P55 because of that high refresh rate and smoother animations. So let me know in the comment section below which of these displays you prefer. And while at that, do not forget to subscribe to this channel as it helps us a bunch. Thank you. Performance is where the Galaxy A05 outshines the Itel P55. Of course, the Helio G85 processor has proven itself over time with several devices to be that good budget processor. Actually, it's better than the Unisoc T606 processor or chipset you get from Itel. Both will handle basic mobile computing tasks effectively and efficiently, but the A05 here does better at gaming. Here are the benchmark scores to see for yourself. Now when it comes to updates, you should expect Samsung to give you 3 years of software and OS updates as promised. That can be said for the Itel device here. Chances are you're stuck with the Android 13 Go edition that comes out of the box with the Itel device here. Also, the Galaxy A05 comes out of the box with Android 13. So batteries here. When it comes to the battery life, you should pick the A05 because it has this more efficient chipset and a 60Hz refresh rate for this device. Both of these devices are powered by a 5000 mAh battery, but Itel here has a 90Hz refresh rate which will consume more power than the 60Hz refresh rate you get from the Galaxy A05. So that's about that for the batteries, but let's talk about the charging systems with these devices. You get an 18-watt charger out of the box with the Itel P55, and that's the maximum charge speed you get with this smartphone. Now, while on the A05 side of things, you have support for 25 watts charging speed, but there's no charger within the box. You have to go out and get that for yourself. Now let's talk about the cameras here. A 50 megapixel camera sensor is what you get for both of them for their main cameras, and 8 megapixel selfie cameras for both of these devices. Photos are just what they are, so about the same quality, and the major difference here being that the A05 gives you this more contrasty and saturated photos, and the Itel gives you something that is flat, more like a natural kind of photo. More often than not, the A05 doesn't give consistent shots. Sometimes it's good, and at other times the same sensor messes things up. You actually just need several takes to get the best shots with the Galaxy A05. When it came to videos, I think I preferred sometimes the Itel P55 and at other times the A05. I didn't have a pick actually. Both are 1080p in resolution, and if I'm being honest here, you can pick any of these devices in terms of the camera and you'll be fine. But I'm guessing a lot of people would want to go with the more saturated photos since they wouldn't want to add more saturation and contrast in post. I mean, that's extra work. So remember, I promised sharing other devices you might want to consider, but before I touch on those, the Itel P55 here is the device you should consider if you want a smoother display, better design if you ask me, a fingerprint scanner, and more value for your money as far as being cheaper with more accessories out of the box. While the Galaxy A05 is the device to pick if you want a smartphone that would get you software updates into the future, a better processing here, and a better battery life. So some other devices to pick here around this price point would include the Redmi 12C. For 95,300 naira, you can get the 4 gigs and 1 to 8 gigs memory configuration and the same processor as the Galaxy A05. So about the same performance as that device, and this is for people who love Redmi devices, and I think it's promised about 4 years of software updates too. My only gripe with the Redmi 12C is the fact that you get micro USB instead of USB Type-C on this device. If you love an Infinix device, you can check out the Infinix Smart 8, which is around 102,500 naira. But if you want a better performer, and even though it has the Helio G85 processor like this one here, you might want to consider the 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage for the Redmi 13C, and it's that Redmi device to pick if you want a consistent camera and more updates into the future. But then again, it's a little bit pricier than these devices here. Here are the prices for the different memory configurations on screen. So, I know you'd love to know my take on these devices here. Well, the Samsung Galaxy A05 is the device I would pick because it has better software updates into the future, and software updates mean a lot more to me over accessories from the box and saving that 5,000 naira. So in terms of the performance and the cameras here, this is something I would go with. Let me know your pick in the comment section below. I'd love to chat with you guys down there, and also you can check out my review on these devices here. Koei that day.